Hello there. What a bloody mess UK politics is in. A newly elected Labour government is now despised more than the last lot of Tory time wasters we've just comprehensively binned. So a poll by the More in Common think tank shows that more people prefer the previous Tory cabinet than they do the current Labour lot. And it only took 3 months to go from a sorry Tory disaster to Starmageddon. Now we see all of them, across the board, in their gory, self-serving glory, leaving the country devoid of any form of real leadership. So much for landslide politics. It's more like past its sell-by-date landfill politics. And we now read that the hideously overpaid Labour Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, has also been on the freebie gravy train, having, according to the Telegraph, enjoyed hundreds of pounds worth of Premier League hospitality tickets and a free trip to a networking summit in the Highlands. And that particular networking summit, the Braemar Summit, has been dubbed the McDavos, which tells us all we need to know. And she's just one of many of the Labour minions who have been showered with such largesse. It's all definitely one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. They get the patronage and we get the hardship, while forcing woke UK damaging policies on us. Now, before anyone lambasts all these politicians and their hangers-on, remember it's not just them doing their level best to ruin this country. We have a whole cadre of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of civil servants wandering about the UK meting out their own damaging policies and decisions on the country. London alone has over 100,000 of them. Now, according to the Institute for Government, in March 2024, we had 510,665 full-time equivalent, politically impartial, appointed officials of the UK Home Civil Service. Politically impartial, having been subjected to the grand Marxist march through the institutions for decades. No organisation that so zealously piles DEI policies down our collective throats can ever be regarded as politically impartial. And these are the people that get the bonuses and the honours, while the rest of us get the aforementioned hardships, woke imposed hardships. Anyway, that recent poll shows that 31% of respondents preferred the old Tory lot, and 29% prefer this fresh Labour disaster. That tells me that about 70% of the population wants neither of them. Now, the director of the More in Common think tank, Luke Trill, said this: 3 months ago it looked as though the Conservatives were headed for a multi-parliament spell in opposition. But the Starmer government's early missteps and growing voter volatility mean the path to power could be quicker than assumed. So what is he saying? That we're destined to forever be choosing between the two cheeks of the same? That it is inevitable that the Tories will be coming back to power soon? Well, it seems so, because he went on to say that the Tories need to focus first on winning over loyal Conservative voters who stayed at home in July, second, to squeeze Labour and the Lib Dem voters who are having second thoughts, and third, to appeal to wavering Reform voters when the race becomes a straight Labour Conservative choice. So as far as he's concerned, it's back to the red versus blue decision-making that has all but destroyed this once great nation. But in better news for the rest of us, the poll showed that only 22% thought that Labour would win the next election, but only slightly more, 23%, thought the Tories would win it. That leaves the field wide open for the right political offering. And I bet the delusional Lib Dems think that's them. Now that stalwart Tory Jacob Rees-Mogg has decided that his party should stand aside in about 100 seats to allow Nigel Farage and his Reform UK a clear run at them. He says that a huge and generous offer should be made to Farage so as to unite the right. What does that mean? That somehow the Tories and Reform UK should merge? And Rees-Mogg went on to say, what if we were to say at the next election, as we did to the Liberal Unionists, we will not oppose reform in those 98 seats? I would certainly be open to that as a real opportunity for reform to win seats from Labour. The Liberal Unionists being a party that existed between 1886 and 1912, which the Tories did have some form of arrangement with. Now, there have been 6 coalitions in the last 130 or so years of our political history, and all of them were between Liberals and Conservatives. Although Nigel Farage and his Brexit party did come to what on the face of it looks like a unilateral arrangement with the Tories back in 2019 when they stood down their candidates that were facing the Tories. Anyway, in the previous 6 official arrangements, it seems the Liberals never fared well, with historyandpolicy.org saying, the years of unequal Liberal Unionist Conservative alliance demonstrated the dangers of collaborating with the Conservatives, especially when Liberal Party leaders seemed more committed to their own political survival than the pursuit of commonly held liberal values. Warning to Nigel Farage, don't get sucked in. The Conservative machine has proven to be extremely efficient at grinding down its opposition in the past. But I do have to ask, would Nigel and his party candidates be up for restricting themselves in such a manner? And would the Tories' vision of uniting the right look anything like that of Reform UK? I would bet that the Tory vision would be yet another left-of-centre mishmash that included an assimilated Reform UK, probably dooming both parties to oblivion. And I'm not listening to anything the Tories have to say until they've sorted their leadership issues out and decided whether they are real Conservatives or are just going to remain as a Labour and Lib Dem tribute act. We definitely need someone to take a firm grip of this country and the now out-of-control violence and crime on our streets. We now hear that a London school was subjected to a sickening acid attack yesterday that injured several people, where one 14-year-old girl was left with what is described as potentially life-changing injuries. And the BBC says, a number of crime scenes remain in place as investigations are carried out. A number of crime scenes. And the Met says urgent inquiries are underway to identify and arrest those responsible. Those responsible. Plural by the sound of it. So one assumes it was not some sort of lone wolf with mental health problems then. Or am I in danger of having my collar felt for speculation and misinformation? I'm just asking the obvious question, giving those statements from our trustworthy and fact-checker BBC and the Met. Anyway, let's hope and pray that all those affected have a full recovery, both physically and mentally, from this ordeal. And that the school has effective CCTV covering the area concerned. Then let's have swift justice, just like the so-called far-right rioters had meted out to them. Quick public arrests, no need to try and understand such vile acts, no bail remand, and a stiff and instant sentence. However, something tells me that is exactly what will not occur. Whoever wants to win the hearts and minds of the electorate at the next election should have law and order, true fairness and true justice uppermost in their minds and manifesto. But they will have one hell of an upward battle against the woke lefty establishment, unless we, the public, get fully behind a new political offering and demand change.